Alright, so here we have the last installment of my Dactyl Manuform build log. Not guide. If you learn anything from this or get anything done because of this, I am not responsible for that. And in this part, we are going to be looking at the firmware as well as my overall thoughts and opinions on this keyboard. I've actually been using it for a couple months now, and I got some thoughts on it. Nothing bad, just, personal directions on it. And with the firmware, there's one thing we're doing that's actually interesting or somewhat unique, and that is we are removing keys from the default setup for the Manuform. But not to ramble on too long, that'll come at the end of the video. Let's go ahead and skip right on to messing with QMK. And I should also mention before we do that, I am by no stretch of the imagination an expert on QMK. I managed to make it work. There are probably a lot better ways to do what I do, but again, I managed to make a functional keyboard, and that, for right now, is good enough for me. Let's get to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and include some clips on how to get to the files you need to edit to customize your Keymap. And one of the things that I'm doing that's a little different than what I'd imagine most people would be doing is I'm not using some keys compared to the default Manuform layout. And so you have to go to the 4x6.h file if you're going to edit that, and it has a little diagram of all the keys there, and you just select where the keys you're not going to use, and replace those with KC no. Now, I didn't come up with this out of the blue. I am barely functional with QMK. That's overstating it. I got this from the Complete Idiot Guide for Building a Dactyl Manuform Keyboard by Derek L. I'm going to be linking to that down in the description below. That's an actual guide. Again, this is a log, not a guide. These videos are more for entertainment than they are for educational purposes. But it's really not hard to do. This is what I was most nervous about because it's where most of the work is. Everything else I've done, God knows how many times before over the years. But this is the first time I'm really messing with this. And then after you have that done, you save, you go to your keymaps. I already have my keymap made up for this, but usually I just copy, default and start messing with that, since it's safe to assume that the default keymap is at least somewhat functional. And this is what my keymap looks like. And there's probably a lot better way of doing what I do here, but again, I'm barely functional with QMK, and this works perfectly without any issues. Now, to compile the firmware, I use MSys 64 bits, and that's the code you type in if you didn't know. There's a lot of good tutorials online detailing how to do this, and there's probably a better way of doing this now than MSys, but this is how I've always done it. I have the infrastructure on my computer for it, yada yada yada. And I think Mech Merlin did a good intro to QMK on this. I'll include a good tutorial down below as well. But you type that in, you hit enter. If you have any mistakes in your keymap, it'll let you know what lines you have to edit. But then if it doesn't find anything, it'll go through all the checks without a problem, and it'll be good to go. Okay, so that is some dog hair floating into the shot there. There's dog hair everywhere. But that is really all you need to do with the firmware. Again, you go to QMK Toolbox to actually load it onto a Pro Micro. Again, I'm going to be including a pretty good QMK tutorial down below. You can watch and learn how to do that properly. But next, I guess, is going to be my thoughts and impressions on using this. I have been using it for a couple months. That's why this video is going out so much later than the other ones, because I'm recording this like day of or day before, depending on how quickly YouTube wants to release the HD setting for this. But in my uses, I do have quite a bit of use. It's not all positive. Now, I want to start off by saying that it's not the fault of the keyboard. I think too often people assume that if they have a difficulty with something or they don't like something, they assume the equipment's the problem, or it's not, them not knowing how to use something properly. But in this case, it's my issue. Everything with the keyboard worked exactly the way it's supposed to. The problem is that I am about 99% correct touch typing technique. And that 1% that I do that's a little off, and I'll explain a couple of examples here in just a moment, really get called out with this type of keyboard. One of them, for example, I have a bad habit of using my index finger for C. Flat keyboard, not a problem. Something like this, we're working with different levels. Similarly, I have a bad habit, which I've kind of been correcting this. I have a bad habit of using my ring finger for P and backspace, doing this instead of this. And with the spacing on the keys, the curvature, and the varying levels of the keycaps, those are just exacerbated. And those are two movements I do quite a bit, and it just makes using the keyboard awkward. Again, that's not the fault of the keyboard, that's a fault of me. And I'm not going to stop using this keyboard, it's just not going to be one of my primary keyboards. You know, it's not going to be like, oh, my Planck and my CRKBD and a Manuform. It's going to be every once in a while I'll pull out the Manuform if I'm feeling a little frisky and want to try something out, but I'm usually going to be going for my Planck or my Korn keyboards or CRKBDs. But again, I feel it's very important to point out that it's not this keyboard's fault, it's a problem with me. It's very rarely actually the tools that are the issue, it's the user. And oddly enough, this is only really a problem with typing. When it comes to using my layers, fantastic. It doesn't slow me down one bit. It's just in typing, I have a little bit of an issue with it. Though I'm going to continue to keep on working with it because I'd like to really get fully up to speed. I can work just fine with it, but it's not as effortless as it is with my other two go-to style of keyboards. Well, that is it for the Dactyl Manuform build logs. Again, anything you actually happen to learn from this is a complete accident. I am not responsible for the results of those. And admittedly, we're not going to be doing a lot of build logs on this channel. They're kind of boring, and I've already kind of found my perfect keyboards, and I really don't have much of a need for, you know, different types of keyboards. This is kind of about as extreme as I'm going to go. If there's something kind of funky, I might, you know, throw up a log down the road. But I do have some fun things coming up. Like, for example, I'm going to be trying out ZMK and the Nice Nano, and trying to work out a way to make that work with my Pancake, since I don't think that's officially supported with that firmware yet. But we'll see if we can at least get some letters coming out of that thing. And of course, make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you got something out of this video. Do the bell thing. Mostly tiny keyboard and VR content. I have fun VR content as well as fun keyboard content coming up. And I really do mean this. This isn't hollow. I do hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And I do hope you at least someone enjoyed these. It was fun making this keyboard. The videos actually weren't all that bad to make. Sometimes making videos is a little more cumbersome, and you think it's going to be until you actually get into it and start doing it. But again, I hope you enjoy the videos, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.